In this session, I want to talk a little bit about a self-talk cycle and how that affects the way that we deal with our own challenges and the way that we deal with the people that we interact with. You and I, we are constantly talking to ourselves. As I talk to you, you're talking to yourself 3 times as fast. If I stop talking, you speed up even faster. And what you're doing through your self-talk, you are interpreting what's being said, how that relates to you and to the world that you live in. And so what you store and record isn't what I'm saying, it's what you think about what I'm saying. You don't store and record what you see, you store and record what you think about what you see through your own self-talk. Now the self-talk, your self-talk controls or modifies your self-image. Your self-image, that picture of who you are. And the self-image controls your performance reality. You perform about like you see yourself to be. And then after you perform, you talk about it through your own self-talk. Okay, you perform, make a mistake, and then you say to yourself, that's like me, I always act like that in that kind of a situation, which reinforces your self-image, which controls your performance, and you get caught in a very self-reinforcing cycle, also referred to as a rut. Did you ever have one of your children make a mistake, or one of the employees, one of the people working around you? What's the matter with you anyway? How could you be so stupid? Like you expect that kid or that employee to raise their hand. Well, let me tell you, Dad. But hell, you don't want them to tell you. You want to tell them. Then you go on and tell them, and you tell them again and again, and they keep recording it. Did you ever have a kid, you come home one day and they leave their clothes in the middle of the floor? You're the sloppiest kid I've ever seen. You're always leaving your clothes in the middle of the floor. If I've told you once, I've told you what? 1,000 times. You know what the kid thinks? I know it. Mom, I'm getting good at it. You keep telling me. But that's not what we want. We paint a picture of what we don't want, and they just keep recording it over and over and over and over and over. And we can't understand why they don't change. And so if someone makes a mistake, you have a responsibility to stop the behavior. But then you don't need to tell people. You help people find alternatives. What would it look like if, and you let them come up with the answers to, what would it look like if we did it like this? Tell me what would it look like if, and you try to get them to paint the next picture. What would it look like? And then, you start painting your children into the picture that you want. If they make a mistake, you correct for error, you're better than that. I see you as being, and you keep painting that picture. And if you do it once, it ain't going to work. You got to do it continuously. Now another thing, affirmations are statements of fact. How many have young children? Now young, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, that neighborhood. There's a concept in getting these kind of information across called the art of overhearing. See, because if you've got a child and you get in these kind of information, you always tell them all the positive things, particularly if they don't listen to you. Ah, Dad, you're always saying that. So you know the child can hear you, and you tell your wife or your husband, did you see that? Man, she's getting good. And that kid, wow, I'm getting good. I had a friend of mine one time had a little daughter named Nancy. She's about 5 years old and maybe 6 or something like that. And she learned how to write cursive. Nancy was making P's and Q's. And my friend said to his wife, did you see those P's and Q's Nancy's making? Man, she's getting good. She must have a great teacher. Now, he knew Nancy could hear, but she didn't know it. He said that day she made P's and Q's on every piece of paper in the house. Look at these, Dad. Look at these P's and Q's. But see, the art of overhearing. all meaningful and lasting change starts first on the inside. It starts on the self-talk cycle. When I first got into this, you know what I recognized? That I had to change that underlying principle of dishonesty. Because I had grown up in an environment where honesty was always segregated, where you was really honest with certain groups of people, but other people you were dishonest with. And so I needed to change that principle. So I would make an affirmation that I am an honest human being and always follow through on my commitments. I am an honest human being and always follow through on my commitments. And I make that affirmation, and I make it over, and I make it over, and I make it over, and I make it over. And I still do it. If I give someone my word, you can take it to the bank. If I say I'm going to be someplace at 8 o'clock, I ain't going to be there at 8:10. I'm going to be there at 8, probably earlier than 8. My word is good. And if you could put one thing into an organization or a child, making their word good, it's probably as valuable as anything you could do.